right. Hello, hello. Welcome. We are doing our November episode of Scripting the Book. And today we're going to be talking about Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. But before we get started, I'm going to have Ben, my co host, introduce himself. And then, fortunately, you just got the two of us. We're missing Natalie, our lady with all the information, is not feeling well. So we wish her well. Ben, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, hey, I am Ben Pick. You can find me every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I host Productivity Sprints as I work to finish the fourth novel in my ongoing Into the Void series. I got the 3 behind me. And yeah, I'm a little bit out of sorts today. I have one of my friends had his 40th birthday last night, so I made it back here in time to do this recording. But yeah, that's all I can think to say about myself right now.
Yes, but Ben's got books. Check him out and go hang out when he's sprinting if you want to get some things done.
Yes.
I too do productivity sprints over here on my channel on Tuesday nights, and I also have books under NB James. So if you'd like to check those out, go right ahead and do that. I am slightly out of sorts. I've been doing a lot of planning. My entire family is coming back into town and they're staying for over a week. So I've been just trying to organize things. And so 'tis the season. It's already starting.
Like pre-Thanksgiving thing, or is that just...
Yes, we're having a pre-Thanksgiving thing. We are a military family, so we have some unexpected deployments coming. So we're trying to, like, I literally had to order holiday pajamas to get them here on time so that we could do the whole big thing, because normally we do those on Christmas. So we're trying to like smash everything in.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so it's going to be a whole thing. So the festivities begin in less than a week. So I better be ready. But what I am ready for today is talking about Frankenstein. So before we dive in, Ben, is this your first time reading Frankenstein, by the original by Mary Shelley?
No, I think I read it in high school, I feel like. So...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read it in high school as well. Like, that's my earliest recollection of reading this book by Mary Shelley. I wish I could pinpoint when, because I don't think I read it for a class assignment. I think I just picked it up. Because usually I remember things that I like, oh, I read this in 10th grade or 11th grade or something. This one, I'm like, I know I read this in high school. And even after the, because I did, I always dual read. I got the copy. Actually, let me show you the copies that I got of Frankenstein. Because I remembered that I liked it. So I was like, well, let me go ahead and get a copy for my bookshelf. So
nice.
This is a copy that I got to keep. And then I was so curious. I ended up getting the Jinju Ito manga. Creepy. So creepy. There we go. Get it the right way for you guys. So creepy. I almost didn't get it just because of these eyes right here. I was like, oh, this is a precursor for what I'm in for. But this I will be gifting to somebody because it's the art is fantastic, but a little creepy for me. But it was so good. But the stuff of nightmares, and that's mild for Jinju Ito. It's more not, he's got more horrific things that he's drawn. I'm like, what in the imagination? So let's get right to it. Let's see where we stood. Were you a dislike on this one? Neutral?
Oh, the book?
Yeah, the book. Love.
Just skipping right ahead. Loved it.
I'm a high like. Love. I remembered it fondly. As you can tell by I remembered I liked it so much. I'm like, let me get a copy of this for my bookshelf. So yeah, so we are both a love. I'm a like, high like, almost love on this one. Enjoyed it very much, and Ben is a love. So I'm gonna let you start, Ben.
Sure. And also, we have some notes from Natalie too. So she was also a like on the book as well.
Yes.
But yeah,
thank you.
The book is absolutely fantastic. It is 100% dated. I will, throw that asterisk out there. But I can see how it basically created the horror genre. There were other books out there that are like it. There's some Draculas, there's some other, I can't think of any off the top of my head. But like, this is the book that this is one of the founding books of the horror genre, and I can fully understand why. Like, it is so fantastically well done. There is the characters are wonderful. The prose is incredible, and the fun part, since Natalie's not here, I'll steal her thunder. I mean, this basically, they decide to write this story. Like, this is what the rumor is. I don't know how much truth there is, but they basically were at a party, and that's, they either started telling this story, or they decided from that party they came up with a couple of details, and from there they, Mary Shelley wrote this story, and so it's kind of fantastic to think that the next time we're out with our friends or whatever, we could have written a groundbreaking novel that defines an entire genre.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree. So let's get into it. We're going to try and stay spoiler free, even though, I mean, it's Frankenstein. It's it's a classic. I love the prose in it. I love the way that she decides to tell this story. The way he's going through, this is how it started, this is where we're at, and he's literally recalling things and the details. So because of that, it does have a bit of a dated feel to it. It is the way that they told stories and wrote novels back then, but the prose were interweaved so well in this. I'm telling you what's happened, but the prose are interwoven so well, you don't feel like you're being told in a way that you shouldn't be being told, if that makes sense. Because a lot of times with us writers, we get into the how much to show and how much to tell. This it's not a letter, so I don't know. They don't call it epistolary, right?
Right.
Because it's not
so
letters.
Yeah, but like epistolary was the common trend for the time, so it feels similar to that.
Yeah, it's as if it feels like you're writing a letter, but it's almost like he's like, let me tell you, this is how I got here, and this I'm at. So just recalling, like a grandpa telling you a story about their life.
So story.
Yep, and it's perfect, So yeah, are there any places where you felt like the story itself falls short? Which might be hard since you're a love on this one. It might be hard.
The ending, I think, we're in spoilers, so I'm not going to say the ending itself, but it is a very typical horror story, and I don't know, I kind of just wanted a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I would call it as the ending is a little bit flat. Is the way that I would describe it. And other than that, I think really the only places it might fall short for today is that it does feel a little dated when you read it, but it's so well written. I think you could easily look past it. It's not anything that's gonna, in my opinion, it's not gonna hinder your reading or enjoyment. And I was able to find a couple of free audio versions on YouTube, and the narrators did really well. I listened to one, it was a young lady, and at first I thought, oh, it might throw me off because obviously Dr. Frankenstein is not a young lady, but no, she did a lovely job. It really just felt like good storytelling. So it was a highlight for me back when I first read it around high school age, and it remains a highlight for me. I literally was looking forward to every time I would get to crack the book open or pull up the audio and get to listen to it. I was like, oh. So because we're going to keep it spoiler free for that, we're going to go through our spoiler free-ish. We're going to talk about the new 2025 Frankenstein, and then we're going to talk about Young Frankenstein, and then we'll just get into full spoilers. So we're basically going to see when we do the new Frankenstein and when we do Young Frankenstein, we're going to talk about, do they hold their own as a movie, and what we thought of them individually as a movie, and then we'll get into the spoilers and all of that stuff, so that you can see how we're going to take this one. So let's where were you on the new 2025 Guillermo del Toro version?
Mr. Negative.
Oh, how negative. Were we at a dislike fully dislike. I found myself liking it more than I thought I would. I would put myself I would put myself at a solid low like. It was more than neutral. We'll get into why my thoughts. So let's get onto our thoughts on it. Since I'm the hire, I will start. I felt like this is not a direct adaptation. If you need a direct adaptation, this is not it. I did feel like it had all of the essence um, that you expect from a horror. It felt really modernized in a way. We have was it Jacob Elroddy? They're doing this thing where they cast a really handsome person as the monster, and then they flip it. So I think we talked about this a little bit with Shadow and Bone, how they cast Ben, what's his name, as the Darkling, the Dark One, and then everybody's like kind of like obsessed with him, and I'm like, he's the bad guy. Let's not. Because of twists, and we'll get into spoilers, I think that the more sympathetic look that the creature has kind of plays into the direction that they decided to take, and they went a different direction with it. Which, because we have other adaptations of Frankenstein, I don't mind it so much. But I will call this is a Guillermo del Toro in his idea of what a twist on Frankenstein could be, is I guess the best way. So I found myself able to enjoy it, and why it hit the like for me is that there's things that happen at the end that I felt like if they continued with another one, I would probably watch it as well. And so that's why it pumped up past the neutral. And I wanted to have a friend who really, really, really liked it come on.
I'm sorry.
But she has to work. And our friend Laura, I wanted to talk about the Jinju Itu, who she's also a huge fan of. But yeah, she quite enjoyed it. So go ahead, Ben. Let's
okay.
This was the bottom tier. So
I am going to be crude for 30 seconds and say that Apocalypse, Gautier, and Queen Amidala are in 3 completely separate movies. No other way of saying it. So there are different actors in this, and every scene that so they're in 3 separate movies. Whenever 2 of them are in the same scene, there's like a thematic and acting clash. And then when all 3 of them are in a scene together, it is just utter chaos for whatever the movie is trying to do. Then you have scenes with Christopher Waltz and Oscar Isaac, where Christopher Waltz is just acting the laps around Oscar Isaac. And let's see here. Queen Amidala's accent noticeably changes across multiple scenes. So I was trying to figure it out. Like I
didn't figure it out.
I think she was doing like a British, I think she's naturally has a British accent, but then every scene when they mentioned that they might be Austrian, she tried to like change to something a little bit towards that. So it was really distracting for me.
It's almost like she remembered, oh yeah.
Yes.
Let me lean on that accent a little bit.
The last 2 scenes in the movie, again, I'm not going to go through spoilers, so I'm not going to say which character this is, but they made a glaring contradiction between those 2 scenes. And I think that similar issues were present throughout the rest of the movie, but it was just so blatantly obvious in those 2 scenes, and I'll get to them in spoilers. Let's see here. There were some POV issues. There were a lot of red flags for lacks of character development, bad storytelling. There's, I'm just reading my notes right here, but you know what Frankenstein never needed was a poorly thought out love triangle. This story focused on the tragedy and drama of Frankenstein, and I guess whatever, bringing an undead creature back to life. That is the point of Frankenstein. So whatever. And the original story was horror. It was horror. There was some tragedy that you could infer from it, but like this adaptation just cranked that to 11, and the changes that they made to the story, I think, made it worse to the story they're telling. So the characters aren't redeemable, and also when we get to the spoiler section, I will get to paraphrase, because it's Oscar Isaac. I will get to paraphrase one of the top 10 worst single lines in a movie because it applies to this movie.
All right. We will not forget to get there.
Yeah.
There were some of the things that Ben said I would have to agree. Again, this one, and I see Christians in it. Christian said, I like the Netflix version. I've always been a big fan of a big Frankenstein fan. And Richard said they did not, because I think it's because of the Guillermo del Toro of it. You know, you either kind of like what they do or you don't. They can be a little hit or miss. For me, like I said, I did agree with some of the things that Ben said. I don't think there wasn't anything that made me not or feel like, oh, this is completely taking me out. The accent switching up, those were kind of noticeable. But I don't think that it was enough for me to notice, but never enough for me to be like, oh, I don't like it. I think I was interested enough in the twist of direction that it almost, okay, this is what I liked about it. Why it pushes into the neutral to low like. What I liked is it almost felt like, what if, almost kind of that Wicked situation. What if what we were told isn't the full story, and the creature actually has a side to their story, and that aspect of the storytelling really fascinated me. And we'll get into, I hope I don't want to forget, but I do want to get into that more when we get into the spoilers, because I thought I liked. And so because I liked that a lot, everything else that I felt was kind of neutral, kind of like mushed it into this high neutral, low like. And also because of things that happen at the end, I know if they continued on with like some sort of a part 2, I would be interested enough to watch it and find out where they would go with that, if that makes sense.
And also the symbolism was just smacking us in the face the entire movie. There is quite literally a Medusa statue, or I mean, statue isn't the right word for it, but there was this giant Medusa head.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, a giant Medusa head in Dr. Frankenstein's lab, which is, you know, Medusa is the symbol of the folly of humankind, and that just was hitting us in the face every time we saw that in the background.
Yeah.
And there's tons of other instances of symbolism that was just not subtle.
Oh, I'm trying. Also reading through some of the comments, so I don't want to miss anything that's specifically on topic. And agree that, yes, it could have been more subtle. All right, so let's go on. There's another adaptation we're going to talk about. It is older, but we are going to still kind of keep it in the spoiler free, and then we are going to go free for all on these in just a minute. But let me find my thing. Let's see. So let's talk about the Mel Brooks Young Frankenstein from 1974. And where were you at on this one?
Loved it.
Loved it. This is a highlight for me. It brings back fond memories. I didn't rewatch the full thing because I've seen it. Oh gosh, I've seen it growing up like 3 or 4 times at least. But I did watch some of the highlights that I remembered. So let's give our thoughts on Young Frankenstein. You're higher than me on this one, so let's go for it.
Yeah. So much like how the original book completely reshaped the horror genre, this the Young Frankenstein completely reshaped how Frankenstein was viewed. It took some shots from the original 1930s movie. I think that's the original. But it took some shots from there and modernized them. But a lot of basically every Frankenstein moving forward from 1974 had to adapt to how Young Frankenstein created that entire created just I'm trying to say Young Frankenstein redefined everything, so that moving after that point, it's kind of actually copying Young Frankenstein and not the original Frankenstein movie. So a lot of things that we would associate with Frankenstein at this point really came through or were honed in and crystallized in Young Frankenstein as opposed to anything that came before it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I really loved about this, especially retrospectively looking back, is that we now have this comedic horror genre that people absolutely flock to.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm not a big horror watcher, the Jasons and the Freddys and all, but I love things like a Scary Movie and the TV show Scream Queens, where they take that kind of comedy aspect of all of the weird things that we see in a horror movie. I feel like they were probably if not the first to kind of do that, we have this horror genre, we've seen the Frankenstein movie, and we're going to take those things that are elements of the Frankenstein movie that are classic, and we're going to show you the things that made it, this twist. These things are just hilarious, but look at what they do. Kind of like how the scary movies have the girl that's always running and falls. You know what I mean? That we know that this is going to happen in a horror movie, but then they take it and they make a joke out of it. And we're all in on the joke. And I feel like Mel Brooks, when we get a little bit more into the spoilers, but Mel Brooks gave Gene Wilder and Marty Feldman some freedom to do some crazy stuff. There were bloopers that were left in that just kind of worked, and it just lent to the not mocking it in a negative way, but just bringing out the humor of some of the things that when we watch these horror movies, we're like, that is so scary. Mm-hmm. And just looking at what could be funny about it. And I think just absolutely well done. It's definitely a highlight for me. You have any other thoughts, Ben, before we get into all of the spoilers for this? Because there's a lot.
It works. It works as a horror movie. I mean, it's not the best scary movie, but it works as a horror movie. It works as a comedy. And even without Frankenstein, if you have no knowledge of Frankenstein history or anything like that, it works as a standalone movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I
agree. It totally works.
It's definitely in like the top 100 movies of all time.
I agree. It probably is. It absolutely works. It was deliberately filmed in black and white just to lend to that more classic feel, and it just worked. There were things that they did that seemed, or some things that they did again that were like accidental, that just also worked to give it the homage to the horror movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and well done. So we're more on the same page with this young Einstein. Did Natalie put in her notes her thoughts on young Frankenstein?
No, I don't know if she said she watched it or not.
Okay. So let's go ahead then and jump into the spoilers. Do we want to talk about the book spoilers first?
No, I mean, I think I don't have anything else really to add about the story. I mean, everybody knows the story. It's
what were you
I have nothing more to add
ending
about my love for the book.
What were you saying about the ending where you were just a little bit like
I mean, so Frankenstein's monster just kind of walks off into the distance, and it's like the typical, the killer still is alive. I don't know. It just felt kind of empty to me, and I don't know how I would honestly change it, because that Frankenstein's monster is kind of doomed to roam until their life eventually comes to an end. You know, they don't have Frankenstein there, so they can't create a second monster to be their companion. So it's just destined to be a lonely existence. I don't, like I said, I don't know how I would even think to change it, but it just felt like there was something more that could have been done.
Yeah, it feels kind of like an inevitable, because when you think about it, how else would you end it except for to give him something more tragic than roaming? Because I'm thinking that the only thing worse would be that he's like frozen in ice. But then because he's such a strong and immortal character, I feel like he would have gotten out of that too.
Right.
So there really isn't, if there's not a way to kill him, then you're kind of stuck with this he got to go somewhere kind of situation. So that's why it kind of like has this kind of, for me, it feels a little flat, like, but it's hard to say that for Mary Shelley because she's literally one of the first doing this. So what, you know what I mean? Where us today, we'd be like, well, we could do this, we could send them to Mars. You know what I mean? We have so many more tools at our disposal with the passage of a couple hundred years where we could say, oh, look, why don't we just do this with them? Or we can come up, we have more creative things that would be believable.
Well, you were talking about horror movies, and that's what they did with Jason X. He gets frozen, and then they unfreeze him in a space station, and chaos ensues.
Oh my gosh, the Jason movies. Laura is here. She grew up on Young Frankenstein. Oh my goodness. And she's an avid and Costello. This is our friend Laura, who absolutely loves Frankenstein. Maybe more than Christian. I don't know. Let's see. And she said she really loved the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein movie.
Sorry. Yeah.
I don't know if you watched. Ben was not a fan. We're getting ready to hop into the spoilers.
I think we disagreed on the last movie too. One of the ones that you brought in. One of the ones that you were brought in for. I think we had completely opposite opinions for it.
And also the Boris. Oh, see, Laura knows all the Frankensteins. She said, I think in one of the 40s Frankenstein's movie, he literally was frozen alive in ice. I think that might be where I remember it from. In ice, and gets thrown in the next movie opening. So let's get into the 2025, because this the ability to come back for more is one of the things that I kind of a little bit. That's what made me know that it was more than a neutral. As I said before, it ended in a way where we're in full spoilers. So if you don't want to know and you want to watch this, it's just come out. It's been out for a little over a week, I think, on Netflix. I'm getting ready to spoil something. Okay, so you know, we're in full spoilers. And I should probably put that. Oh no, it says full spoilers. It's making sure I wrote it down there in case anybody's hopping in. You didn't warn me enough. No, I'm warning you. Okay, so in the end of this one, it's where we believe that Frankenstein dies, but the ship kind of just sails away. We have Elizabeth is frozen in this cave. I believe it's so cold there. She's dead. She's dead.
I mean, yeah, she's dead, whatever.
But her body is frozen in a way that it could be preserved. Do you see what I'm saying? And then we have him wandering away. So it leaves this kind of like this door open that what if, as the ship sails away, maybe but we do have that ending where we get Frankenstein, the creature, walking away into this desolate snow. So the unnecessary love triangle that Ben mentioned, we'll talk about that too. So I can't say that I didn't like it. It becomes more than a triangle at this point. It's
I know it's a 4-way, whatever, but
so Elizabeth is engaged to the younger brother Frankenstein. The older brother Frankenstein looks like they catch some feelings there for a minute, but then she meets the monster, and she is the first one who's empathetic to the monster. And we have Oscar Isaac not being a very nice, not nice guy, Frankenstein, where I feel like we don't get. I feel like it could be inferred from the book, but because he's doing these things, but we don't see him being, and he has no. There's feels like there's no love lost necessarily for Frankenstein the book. He's just like, I created this monster. Oh my gosh, what I do from the book. But then in the movie, he is almost like, oh, I created this thing. It's so stupid. And you see him just like tapping him in the head in a negative way. And then later we have, and I think these are more kind of things that I kind of liked, where we then have where he's with the Sophia's family, and the grandfather, I think, like taps her in the head in a positive way, like you're so smart kind of thing. And so he himself, the creature, internalizes that, oh, I want these good pats. I want these good pats. So there are things that invoke these sympathetic feelings. Again, these are things that help push it into the like where these other film making things and maybe some of the acting where those things brought it down. These things were able to bring it up. So we do have the flip. Again, we're in spoilers, is that we have a sympathetic monster who has their own side of the story. And I felt like this is the twist that I liked, is that what if in the book we were only seeing Dr. Frankenstein's version of things, and maybe some of the bad things that the creature did, maybe they didn't do, or they were only doing to protect themselves. Because we have the scene with the wolves where he's like, I understand now. It's not that they hate the wolves, and it's not that the wolves, they're trying to survive. Death happens because people are afraid and want to survive. So there are things in this that I think have enough value that I feel like if you're watching the movie and you can overlook some of the things that we nitpick about a little bit, with the accents aren't good, some of the acting clashing. I saw that. Yes. Ben's not wrong. But if you're a fan, I feel like if you're not looking for those things, like we kind of watch to look for these things. If you're not looking for these things, you might be able to overlook it a little bit for, the things that come together, in my opinion, come together really well. The relationship with what is the old man's name? Can't even think of his name. And the girl, and just watching the evolution of the creature, learning, because he thinks he's being told that he's unintelligent. He figures out how to escape. So, a situation that probably wouldn't have killed him, now we know. But, he's smart enough. He knew that if the leaf can go out that way, I can go out that way too. And this is where he starts to understand his strength. And so I feel like that there are things that they did so well, that the things that fell short, I'm like, why? Why did we not work on these things better? So go ahead, Ben. Your thoughts on some of these spoilers. And
okay. So, first of all, I'm putting some timestamps in the chat in the comment section, because the last two scenes of the movie, you see Frankenstein's face, and it's supposed to be like this human thing or whatever, and he has I have the notes. I don't really feel like looking at them because obviously the movie didn't either. But it starts off, his scars start like top here, like the top of his temple on one side, and they go down to the other, and that's how one shot ends. And then on the other shot, it's the exact opposite. So they reversed the makeup, and I could have sworn that they did it multiple times throughout the movie. Like they just, whoever the script or whoever the person on set is supposed to like make sure those mistakes don't happen wasn't paying attention, or maybe the cameras were reversed or something. But it's like the last two shots, and it's supposed to show how human Frankenstein's monster is and all this other things. And all I could think of was, wow, that's, crisscrossing. There's also a point in the movie where it shifts from Dr. Frankenstein telling the story to Frankenstein's monster then telling their side of the story. And at no point did they actually, like, Frankenstein's monster wasn't there to know where Dr. Frankenstein ended his story. And there's millions of places where Dr. Frankenstein could have ended that story, but he does, like, they never actually had a handoff, and Frankenstein's monster just happens to pick things up right at the right point that we as the audience know. So there's like a break of the fourth wall there, because there's no way that the characters would know what we know, but yet they still acted on that information.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies in which we don't need to really go in to. Oh yeah. The first couple of scenes we get young Frankenstein, young Victor is wearing all black, and like his dad is wearing all black and whatever, and his mom's out there in red, and the entire time like, oh, so his mom's going to die in like the next 2 minutes, right?
Yeah,
because she's wearing red, and then after she dies, he starts wearing red gloves because, you know, whatever. It the symbolism is just there, and it is not well woven into the movie. It is just a sledgehammer to the face. None of the characters are redeemable. So the book itself, like there was tragedy. Frankenstein's monster doesn't really understand what he's doing at first when he actually, you know, makes the first kill. And then later on, obviously there's intent behind him because him and Dr. Frankenstein are openly clashing. And so there is legitimate tragedy in there. And then in this movie version, there's just nothing. There is no redeemable character that we're following. Even Christopher Waltz's character, the uncle who is paying for everything, is the most redeemable character, but he has selfish motivations because he wants to live forever. And so he's trying to hope that if Victor Frankenstein can perfect the formula to beat death, then he can also, you know, his brain can be put into the monster's body and he can live on forever. But every single thing, like Queen Amidala, Sophia, her motivations are wildly inconsistent. She goes from being engaged to Victor Frankenstein's brother to possibly having a thing for Victor until she realizes that he's the real monster, and then she abandons him and is like, oh, well, I'll just marry his brother like I was planning on it. And then she meets Frankenstein's monster, and she's like, well, you know, I could run away with him, and I could teach him how to be a good person. And so at no point, so we have her with her her inconsistent motivations, and Victor Frankenstein, who is just a monster the whole way through. He doesn't love his brother. He uses everyone around him. And so when the brother dies, like, there's no emotional investment in there because nobody really cares. The fiance is already functionally dead at that point. Victor doesn't care about his own brother. Like, there's no emotional attachment to these characters. And then the scene where Victor shoots Elizabeth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Elizabeth.
So it's like this typical movie scene where he's supposed to be aiming for Frankenstein, but he hits Elizabeth in the gut, which means at no point was he actually aiming for this giant 6-foot monster. He was aiming for the fiance the entire time, which is actually, my wife and I discussed this, and I kind of no-priced it, where he was feeling so jealous that he purposely aimed for Elizabeth instead of the monster. And that would have been a much more interesting movie if Victor truly became the monster by killing the fiance intentionally. But the movie doesn't go there. It doesn't do anything interesting with that.
That is a very interesting point. I wish I'd have been there to discuss it with your wife as well, because I think it kind of comes off as he's been slammed around a little bit at this point before he pulls out the gun. So maybe the crazy aim was that he was very dazed, a little dazed and confused,
but again, like, I mean, she's, first of all, every scene that Elizabeth is in, she's wearing these absurd getups that don't belong anywhere in the movie. Like, that's where I was talking about how she's in a completely different movie than everyone else.
Yeah. Well, the mom was kind of in that movie too, because those outfits were out there. But we'll get back to the scenery. I didn't mind it with the mom.
And then there is the other scene where Elizabeth first meets Frankenstein, and I'm like, red flag, she is not running away, blah, blah, whatever. And my wife turns to me and she's like, yeah, but he's tall.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to get to this. Okay, because I'm going to get to Laura's comments, because I do like it's that other opinion that I was hoping we'd get. I liked the romance, but also I'm writing a gothic horror romance. Here's the thing: for a certain sect of people, they're going to eat this up. It seems unrealistic. Like, yes, in reality, if we see something like that, we're running the other way.
Again,
but
that's perfectly fine. But
that,
she has three different potential love interests, and there's never really a clash. She just kind of bounces from one to the next based on what the plot needs. Like, if they want to go the romantic route, great, make a movie about that. But this movie wasn't trying to tell that story. It just needed to move the plot along.
Yeah, that's why I feel like there's a little bit of an open door for another part. I'm just saying, with the Frankenstein bride, because who would Frankenstein be making the bride for? I do feel like that the scene where the brother dies, that does feel like that falls short. There could have been definitely more there, more emotion, and it does make it.
None of the characters cared about the brother. The wife was
nobody
ready to run off with Victor in the first place, and if the movie doesn't respect a character, then it doesn't matter if they die.
Yeah. So, motivational wise, because huge spoiler, guys. Again, we're in super spoilers. Like Ben said, he's the one who shoots Elizabeth. It's not the monster in the book. He comes in to find Elizabeth has possibly accidentally been killed, and the monster moves out of the shadows. So we do get this scene played in a different way.
And in the books, the monster actually says, like, I'm going to come for your wife on your wedding night. Like, I'm coming for you. I'm going to hurt you. And here the monster is just this sympathetic, childlike thing, and it makes sense that they're just learning and all this other stuff. So it takes away all the horror aspects. It takes away all of the, all that we're left with is a weak drama.
I don't know if I wouldn't call it weak, but it definitely has a different feel. It does have this gothic romance feel versus a horror movie feel, which, as someone who prefers that to horror, I'm like, I'm not mad at it.
Fine, but if you want, think about it this way: if you want to go the romance route, Frankenstein's monster is less than a year old at this point, and yes, he has a super brain and whatnot. But you have Elizabeth, who is choosing to potentially leave her fiance for what is functionally a child. Like, yes, he is a genius at this point, but he is mentally and emotionally a child.
Yes, he's a baby. Maybe I was going to say maybe he sees Elizabeth as a potential mother figure.
Yeah, and that throws in a whole other terrible aspect.
Like, my daddy doesn't like me, but my mommy is so sweet. So there's a lot to be said.
There's an ancient Greek tragedy about that too.
There is. So Laura said the colors, the costume, the lighting, the acting. I loved it so much. I wish I had gotten to see her as the bride. This is where what I'm getting at. But I feel like she would have accepted him if transformed, and they would have been happy together. So they needed to not keep her alive. Yeah. Again, where I feel like there's a little bit of a door open for something to come. One, we have a monster who is learning in a year. Look at how much he's learned. He's learning very quickly. So even if we lose Victor,
but all of Victor's notes went up in flames.
Yeah, most of them did. But how smart can this monster get? What brain did this monster get?
Yeah, that's another thing. Like the explosion scene, I don't understand how his body could have. Victor Frankenstein, he ends up flying back and he breaks his leg, and it's a compound fracture, so they need to cut it off. But the way that his body was launched back, it was impossible for that accident to have happened in that exact way. Like, there's no way that he could have flown backwards and still had compound fracture and like no other damage to his body.
Yeah, and he's not almost dead. Yeah, because that was pretty.
So there were a lot of moments that are like put into the movie to either move the plot forward or because it seems something that's cool, but they fall through if you actually start thinking about them.
Yeah, and
like the dynamite.
The dynamite one. I thought, okay, if I kind of wanted to see if body parts actually can come apart. And
Sure.
so then I'm like, maybe the body parts can't come apart, because I think we've seen this kind of in our more modern version of vampires, where they try to sever the head, but what happens if you bring them close together? Will they naturally want to come back together? So I honestly, that's the route that I thought that they were going to get, but they actually went the route where the dynamite didn't even
And
do much
this is
damage.
why it's so frustrating. Like a human, I understand that he's stronger than normal people or whatever, but like a human body or any kind of body that's holding a stick of dynamite right there will be nothing left when that dynamite explodes. And then he, at the beginning of the movie, there are literally 30 people using levers and pulleys to try and push this boat out, and they can't do it. So it's impossible for Frankenstein's monster to, at the end of the movie, do what 30 people combined couldn't and push an actual boat. And he almost
Yeah.
flips the boat, and there's all these other things. But like, yes, I can understand that. Sure, he's super strong. So let's say he's, and he doesn't have the same limitations that the human mind imposes on its own body. So let's say he's maybe 5 times stronger than a person. Like, this just became a superhero movie.
It actually did. And I think that what we see is, as time goes on, the more he learns, actually, the more he's learning how strong he actually is. Because I feel like we saw that with the rocking of the boat.
Yeah.
As soon as he was rocking the boat, my thought was, oh, if he can rock that boat, he can probably get the boat out of here, which is what he ends up doing at the end.
Obviously.
And at the beginning, we see that he's pulling on these chains, and he can pull them pretty hard, but he's not breaking them. When his life depended on it is when he realized, I've got to do this or I'm going to die. Like, he's smarter and learning faster than what Dr. Frankenstein thought. Which I feel like they did that well, because we're all thinking, can he just break those chains? I feel like we're thinking this. And I don't think he knows that he can until he has to.
And that's fine. At that point, he was a couple of days old, maybe a couple of weeks old. So he perfectly, fine, whatever. And it makes sense that he can be a little bit stronger than your average human. But the point at the end of the movie, he is just beyond anything human. Like, it makes the story so much worse that you have just this superhero of Frankenstein's monster. Like, there's no way that you can give muscles enough strength to physically push a boat like that.
We have Wolverine, of course you can. No, I'm kidding.
He was Wolverine too. So Wolverine has come back from like just a drop of DNA, like a drop of blood or whatever, and he's completely reconstituted his body. And that's what must have happened when Frankenstein, was holding the dynamite and the dynamite exploded, because there's no other way that there would have been a body left at that point.
Yeah.
So,
which is why I thought that they were gonna. I'm like, I felt like, they kind of went the Wolverine route, where everything's just you can't rip that body apart. Where I thought that they were going to, I can't remember which vampire movie, so I saw it, and where they ripped the limbs come apart, and which as a non-horror lover, I was actually glad that they didn't go that route, where all the pieces fall apart, and then you kind of like see all the pieces like coming back together. That would have been way more graphic. I think a lot of people would have liked that.
Sorry. So I also have my one line that I want to do. First of all, there's a scene where he's hooking up all the electronics, and he has leather gloves on, and he's climbing up slick stones. Like, that just broke the immersion for me too, because there's no way that he would have slipped and fallen to his death anyways.
My thought, I noticed that too, because I'm like, how is he not falling? And I'm like, there must be something on these gloves. Like, we had a lot of the same thoughts.
I had the same discussion with my wife, and my wife's like, "Oh, well, he's wearing leather gloves." I'm like, "Leather gloves do not have traction on them. When leather gets wet, it is slippery. It is,
tight. Yeah, okay. But I think, see, me and your wife were a little bit on. I think we were just more forgiving. We're a little bit more on the same page. But we did have a lot of the same thoughts.
But also, the worst line in cinema is "somehow Palpatine returned," which was also said by Oscar Isaac. And so there was like a 10-minute dialogue of how you need to get the perfect silver to be the perfect conductor. You need to do all these things in the right way to ensure that the body will reanimate. And then at the last minute, he drops the thing and it cracks. And because of that, the they don't get enough power, and so Oscar Isaac is trying to give CPR to the dead body, and then when the dead body doesn't reanimate, he just walks off. And so my paraphrase of somehow Palpatine returned, it is somehow Frankenstein's monster came back to life. Because according to everything that we are shown within this story, Frankenstein's monster should not have come back because there were mishaps or whatever, or it should have happened sooner, or Oscar Isaac should have been there. It doesn't make sense that this thing stayed dead and then hours later finally reanimates perfectly, or reanimates in some way, and then there were no consequences for those mishaps. It would be one thing if Oscar Isaac then goes back and says, "Oh, I didn't. This connector piece was off, and so that's why this creature isn't as intelligent as I wanted to, or that's why something fell through, and that's why there's this change from what I had originally anticipated," and that would have been an interesting story to tell. But there was a clash between everything that the movie is showing, the movie is telling us, and what actually the movie is showing us.
Yeah. I see what you mean on that. With his intelligence, the way that I'm going to say one of the things that I appreciated was that he's getting the brain of an adult person. So I felt like that's why, even though it seemed like the learning wasn't happening right away, I feel like because he does have a fully grown adult brain who has lived a thing, I felt like it was kind of like once he learns something, like things start clicking, because that's like a muscle memory. The brain's starting to like, oh, we know this. So he's able to, in 1 year. So then with for our romance lovers, does that mean he's now not a year old because now he's got the brain of however old the person was that? Look, us that like romance, we try to make it work. Look, we like our vampires, okay? Our vampires are usually quite old.
That's perfectly fine. I don't usually have a problem with vampire romances, except when the vampire is like 1,000 years old in a kid's body, and then you get all kinds of issues there. But like your standard vampire romance, that go for it. Great, whatever.
Yeah.
No problems there.
We're trying to make this romance work, okay? I did like that they made her not a sister, so slightly less weird. Agreed. Even as romance, we like to make things work a little better than some of the ways that they were done back in the day. They kept her as a sister fiance in the Kenneth Branagh version, which I also loved. Okay, and then Ben. Put in the chat are some of the areas of mistake. A monster romance. It is a monster romance. If you go the route that Elizabeth is falling in love with the creature, that does kind of make it a monster romance.
Yeah, but that means that in 2.5 hours she goes from being in love with her fiance to shifting over to Victor to back to her fiance, now to the monster, and there's no time actually really shown for this, except for like the one dancing scene with Victor.
Yeah. And I feel like, but was she really in love with them though? Or was it that, okay, she has to marry the younger brother, which is the name William, I think. So she has to marry William. They're betrothed. They've been put together, whatever. So she's going to do it because that's what she said she's going to do. She's fascinated with Victor, but she meets this creature, and we see that she's sympathetic to the butterflies. She's sympathetic to the people in the war. She sees things differently. So she's naturally not inclined to just think that the creature is evil and to want to understand it and have some empathy. So it's not like it. So in my opinion, if she were going to be in love with one of them, I would think that is the one where she has the most love for. I do also feel like it could become a maternal or a sisterly love. I mean, they didn't kiss or anything in this, right?
No.
Yeah, I think I would have remembered that. So it was just very affectionate, very caring. So they don't have to go the romance route, but to me the window is open there, wide open for the monster romance lovers.
And that's fine, but like the story everything that we're shown in the story clashes with that. Like the story wasn't really a love story except for the 5 minutes of forced love interest of force-fed love interest between Elizabeth and Victor. And they could have made this so much easier if they just had Elizabeth, the Victor's fiance, and just completely take out the brother storyline anyways.
Yeah. And
Because the
I
movie was...
like Oscar. I'll go ahead and finish yours.
Oh, I was
'cause
going
I'm
to say,
gonna
because the movie was just way too long.
Yeah. And I typically like Oscar Isaac. This was not my favorite thing to see him in. And I thought, is it that I'm not liking seeing him as this bad guy? And then I was like,
And
no, I think that something about the character is
it's
clashing. Something's not feeling right.
it's probably because Dr. Frankenstein is supposed to be like this ambiguous character. He's not supposed to be outright evil. He's not supposed to... the line I actually have here is when his brother dies, his brother looks at Oscar Isaac and says, "You are the monster." And that's just, again, smacking us in the face with sledgehammer with this metaphor and with the themes of the thing. Like, you can't just say, you know, Victor Frankenstein, you are the real monster. So, sorry, where was I starting with that? If Christopher Waltz were Victor Frankenstein instead, like, there would be some nuance. It wouldn't necessarily be just, oh, Victor Frankenstein is just unrepentant, horrible excuse for a human being and good riddance to him. There could have been some nuance there, which I don't think Oscar Isaac is capable of portraying. Like, he was crazy doctor from day one, and there were scenes where he was trying to, like, slowly show him losing his medical capacities and just becoming more insane and becoming more driven, but they fell short because of both the story and what I felt like was his own acting capabilities.
Yeah. And let me get up to Christian. I liked Elizabeth as a feminist character, and that part was the appeal of her bond with the creature that she didn't have with the brothers. Agreed. Really quick, I've always oh, that's about the vampires. Yeah, same. Here, Adriana also says she was never in love with the brother. The brother is the suitable choice. She's a pragmatist.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's whatever, 1800s. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and Christian agrees. Didn't love the brother. Yeah, and that's very fitting for the time. That's why I also feel like Victor, she finds fascinating. Maybe it was a bit of a crush, but if there were gonna be love, that would have been with the creature. The creature's the one that she felt more drawn to.
Yeah.
As a woman,
well, she also had immense independent wealth. That was the whole thing, was that her uncle was the one who was paying for everything that Oscar like. Oscar Isaac was the one who was actually trying to abuse the relationship there and just sort of funnel money to his own science experiments.
Right.
Although I guess William, because that's not entirely correct, because William was actually a successful businessman too. So
yeah, because I know that they lost a lot of family. They lost a lot of their family fortune, but they were able to recoup some with William doing the things that he was doing. I want to get into some of the spoilers for Young Frankenstein. I was about to say Young Einstein. For Young Frankenstein before we cut out. So we talked about earlier some of the things that were actually kind of like left in that weren't actually parts of the scenes, and one of them is where I forget, I want to say it was Inga or Elizabeth? I rewatched this in clips. I didn't rewatch the whole thing, but she there's a part where she's in the hay ride and she falls, and come to find out, because I watched something that also talked about some of the things that Gene Wilder and Marty Feldman, some of the things that they did that just ended up being absolutely iconic in this. And there are definitely things that stood out to me that became those things that Young Frankenstein is remembered for. And one of them is that she falls in this, she's supposed to just be like kind of like tossing in the hay. She actually ends up falling and she's rolling around, and it gives a little bit of a comedic, it adds to the comedic drama. It's very fun and funny, but it doesn't take you out of the movie. It actually adds to it. There's a candle which disappears in one scene and it's back in the other. Kind of, maybe the scar was an homage to to young Frankenstein with the scar that switched. Because one of the things that was hilarious, and I remember this as a kid, was how many times is the hump going to switch sides?
Yep.
So I would love to find out if that was on purpose.
No,
It would be a
this
weird
movie,
thing to do
this
on
movie
both.
took itself too serious. The Netflix version took itself too seriously to actually have any humor in it.
Yeah, that's why I was like, that would be a weird thing, but it also maybe in the future it'll be one of those things that we'll find as funny. But because it wasn't a comedy, it would be weird to me how they would do that. But it was the same thing. But in the 1974 version, they really like leaned into it, where you've got Gene Wilder kind of like touching the hump, or I think he thought he was getting the good side and ended up touching the hump side, and he's like, wow, he's actually startled that the hump is there. It's so funny. It's so funny, guys. And it's old comedy. So we just have these scenes. We have putting on the Ritz. Like there's just so many enjoyable things. And it definitely it feels like Frankenstein. And I feel like this is possibly also the first Frankenstein that I actually watched as a movie. And I think I did see the was like I want to say 1930s or 1940s version or something like that. Years. I forget. I don't even know what year it was, but I did see that at some point in my 20s. But the Young Frankenstein is definitely the movie as a child that I remember, and we just thought it was hilarious, and we just watched it every time it came on. It was so funny.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on Young Frankenstein?
Fantastic. I don't. There's no spoilers. There's no nothing. It is just a quintessential movie that everybody should actually watch.
Agreed.
Oh, sorry. There is some cool things where they recreated scenes and sets from the original 1930s movie, and they just brought them into the Young Frankenstein. So they spent a lot of money to try and recreate it to make it like accurate to what was actually done in the 1930s. So no real spoiler information, but
that's fine. They don't always have to be. It's drastically unlikely that the uncle had no other male relatives, such as a fifth cousin somewhere that male relative would inherit his estate. Interesting. Because we were talking about how it goes down the line with the cousins.
Mm-hmm.
What are our final thoughts? Because it's time for us to wrap this up. Any final thoughts?
Skip the Netflix version. Everything else is wonderful.
I would not say skip the Netflix version, but I would say it's very different. So prepare yourself. If you do like that modern twist and Gothian, you can look past. If you can look past some acting flaws, and that one scene with the scar, we try to make it make sense. I didn't notice it, which is darn it. I'm mad that you noticed and I didn't. I'm like,
because they do like a zoom. It's supposed to show the emotion, so it's obviously close up of his face, and like the very next scene, I'm like, wait a minute, it's not going the right way.
I'm actually a little mad I didn't catch that one. I'm like, dang it.
And I swear it happened throughout the movie too, because I could have sworn that between the scene they switched it.
It may have. I'm gonna have to go back. But if you like those movies that have a little twist on who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, and if you want to see kind of the monster side, I feel like the creatures side of the story, I felt like was done really well. That was probably one of the most enjoyable parts of the movie, particularly when he's learning about why we hunt, why we kill, why we're afraid. There was nothing in, I don't think there was anything really in your face, except for that you can kind of predict that it's not going to go well for the old man, but if any storyteller knows that that's how that's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
The mentor, we know what happens to that figure. And the way that it's done, and then the way that things are flipped back on. I just that whole thing is done. That whole section, the second half with the creature, I feel like that storyline is really, really good. really, really good. Because even okay, very spoilery. Just because I really like this, and for the people who are in the chat who really liked it, I want to get those positive things out so that you
fair.
don't like, oh man, Ben didn't like it. No, I was neutral like on it, and I'm gonna the things I didn't like, most of them Ben is telling you the things but there were genuinely things that I liked. I really liked how he met the hunters and how he first was introduced, how he's feeding the deer, and he doesn't understand initially, because he's making friends with the deer. He doesn't understand initially why the hunters would kill him and then kill the deer and then also go after them. But then he found himself in this home hiding, wanting to be a part of this family. So his learning is like speeding up exponentially. And honestly, it's the pat on the head one that I'm like, oh, yeah, I could see why he wants that, especially after coming out of what we would consider an abusive family, where he comes from. His father is so horrible to him, that he wants to be a part of a loving family. And I think that that found family, that desire for the found family, that's just done really well. So if anything, if you're like, oh my gosh, Isaac's acting is getting on my nerves, or the accent switching, skip to that part. That's beautiful. That is beautifully done. The monster, from the time that the creature escapes, I think they even labeled it in the Netflix movie like part 2 or something like that. That, I feel like all of that is beautifully done. No real notes on that. I'm trying to think if there's anything I didn't like. So there's nothing that I did that I disliked about that whole section. Most of my critiques come from the first half and then the very ending. But again, I don't mind the implications of the romance for the ending part. And then I, as a Wolverine fan, I'm like totally forgiving that. Oh, okay, he didn't blow up. I'm more forgiving. So if you're more forgiving on those types of things, watch at least the second half on. It's really, that part's really well done.
And skip the transition from there's an actual cut break from
yes.
Act 1 to Act 2, and there is no Act 3. But yeah, I would recommend skipping that transition because the movie skipped it too.
Yeah, it just goes, now I'm going to tell my story. All right. So let's see. Oh, that's you, Ben. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right. So normally I put what we're doing next, but I forgot what it is.
Frosty the Snowman, December 14th.
Yes, Frosty the Snowman, December 14th. So come back and join us. We are flipping the script. I'm going to go ahead and put this up because I forgot to edit it. So today is the 16th. We're doing Frankenstein, but we're going to flip the script in December. So come join us. We're going to talk about some of, how Frosty the Snowman came about. It's a fun little kid's book. It was a movie. It's a song. We're going to talk about that. So just in time for the holidays. I hope you guys will come back and join us for that. Ben, you want to tell the folks where they can find you at before we take off?
Yeah. Every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern time, I host productivity sprints. I promise I'm not this negative every Monday night. Just a couple. I'm a very big plot and logic and character development person. So when there are contradictions within a story, it makes me very upset. And hopefully I'll see you all on 6 p.m. on Monday nights, assuming I haven't scared you off.
You did not scare anybody else off. We love an honest opinion. And your opinions on young Frankenstein and the book, chef's kiss. So you did just great, Ben. Always a pleasure. Thank you, guys. I will be back on Tuesday night for Night Write, and then on Monday and Fridays in the middle of the day, if you want to come get some things done with me, I'll be over on Twitch. So we're all linked below. Our co-host Natalie has a couple of awesome books out, so you can check those out too. They are how would you describe them? They're like prompt. They're prompt. It's a prompt. They're prompt.
Oh yeah, sorry. Natalie's the prompts. Yeah, the prompts for short stories.
Yes, and then they have a romance one. Super cute. I need to still get the romance one. But they're really awesome. You can work through the prompts, and you can check out Natalie's channel. for more on that. My dog is having fun. He's like, it's time to go. So thank you all so much for coming and hanging out with us. Tell us your thoughts on Frankenstein, good or bad, just be nice. Go ahead and you can leave your thoughts in the comments section down below. And let's get a little music. We'll see you next time. Bye.